my name is Natalie. So today I wanted to finally bring you my Springathon TBR. So I've been thinking about my TBR for the Springathon readathon that I'm doing with Emma from A Cup of Books, and we're doing it on BookTube, and I'm also doing an Instagram challenge to go alongside the readathon with Juliana from the Blank Garden on Instagram, and I will link all of the information you need about the readathon and about the Instagram challenge below, and the hosts as well, me being one of them, of course. And as I'm sure you've already seen, I've done at least 2 recommendations videos for the readathon with all things nature writing. So today I wanted to share my TBR. They are just sort of possibilities that I'm going to be choosing from, all sort of fitting into the prompts, and to have a few options to sort of narrow down my possibilities from my own shelves. And I thought that even if I don't get to all of these, I have at least given you some inspiration maybe for books that you might be interested in picking up, or just share interesting titles in general. Let's get on with the books that I've chosen for the planned prompt. So first we have A Sting in the Tail by Dave Goulson. This is a book, a natural history about the bumblebee, and I've started this one last year, I think it was, and really enjoyed the beginning of it, but I just for some reason or another I put it to the side. So I'm thinking that I will probably be listening to this as an audiobook. A lot of my reading this year has been audiobooks. I really wanted to make sure I at least had a few options that I knew I had access to on audio, and this is one of them. And of course the cover is has plants on it. It could work for the animal prompt as well, but I have so many other options for that, so I think I will use this as a plant and listen to the audiobook of this. The other one, the next one, I also have the option of reading as an audiobook. We'll see whether I go with the physical or not. It is The Hidden Life of Trees by Peter Wohlleben, and this is a German author. I have the Swedish translation, and this is a book all about trees and the fungal network and their communication, and just fascinating stuff. And again, this is an example of a book that I've started before and really enjoyed. I wanted to have a physical copy so that I could annotate in it, because there's so many interesting things about this or in this book that I really wanted to make sure I was able to digest it with pen in hand. So I think I might actually combine the physical and the audiobook with this. We'll see, but I am really excited to finally get to this, and it's a fairly short book as well, which makes it a likely one that I will read. Then the last one I have for the plant prompt is probably not much to do with plants, it's just the cover, and that is Miss Austen by Gill, Hornby. So the reason I was intrigued by this book in the first place is, well, there's several reasons, but the first thing is that the cover is designed by Chloe Giordano, who is an embroiderer and a needle painter. She shares a lot of her work on Instagram, and I absolutely love her work. I think she's just fantastic, and so she has created this cover. And this is a historical fiction which I've been reading a lot of lately, and it's about Jane Austen and her relationship with her sister. So I thought that if I get to Persuasion, which is the last of Jane Austen's books that I've yet to read, if I manage to read that before the Springathon, I will probably try to start this one over that readathon period. If not, then I will probably get to this soon anyway. But the cover is what made me think of this as a plant prompt, although it also has a dog on the end papers. So it's just a stunning book. And as I said, historical fiction has kind of been my jam lately, so I wanted to make sure that I had both fiction and non-fiction options for all of the prompts. I'm just not sure what I'll be in the mood for over the course of those 2 weeks, so I wanted to make sure I had all of my bases covered. The next prompt I have prepared books for is the animal prompt, and that was definitely the most difficult for me to narrow down, because animal nature writing is my favorite, and I just kind of tried to put at least a few of the animal books that I had in mind to the other areas, therefore putting the A Sting in the Tail in the plant prompt, and I also have a animal nonfiction for the water prompt. I'll get to that eventually. I tried to narrow it down and I have 4 options for this. So first we have Squirrels at My Window, Life with a Remarkable Gang of Urban Squirrels by Marmor Spruch. This is a book that I was recommended by someone who commented last year on one of my videos where I talked about the fact that it's kind of impossible to find non-fiction books about squirrels that isn't like guidebooks about them or books for kids. So this is a memoir of the author basically observing squirrels in her neighborhood, and I love the idea of this. I've been wanting to read it since I got it last year. And squirrels is one of my favorite animals, so I thought it would be really nice to have this finally read. And also it's most of my nature books I think are not so much memoirs, they are more on the sciencey side of things, which I'm guessing the next one is, but I'm not 100% sure about the lean of it. It is The Butterfly Isles, A Summer in Search for Emperors and Admirals by Patrick Barkham. This is a really popular nature writer. He has also written a book called Badgerland that I really want to read and that I have on my shelves and that I was nearly putting on this list, but then I thought this is a book that I have only just bought and I'm really excited to read it as soon as possible. So I will definitely be reading this during the Springathon, if not finish it. It is a book all about butterflies, and for me, spring is butterflies. Like, they are the most iconic animals for me when it comes to spring weather. So I'm intrigued by any books with butterflies at the central, as a central topic. So if you have any recommendations for butterfly nonfiction books, let me know. Although I would be happy with fiction books as well. So then I have 2 fiction options for the animal prompt as well. We have How to Be Human by Paula Cocozza. I bought this when it first came out and I haven't gotten to it yet. It's about a woman who befriends a fox, and I love the concept of it, and I bought this shortly after having read Foxes Unearthed and being in love with it. So I would really like to finally get to this, and as I said, I wanted to mix in a few fiction books, and this is a contemporary one, and I think her befriending the fox is sort of in part connected with her marriage falling apart, or at least her relationship not going so well. It seems kind of like a book about connecting with nature, but with a fiction version of that story. Lastly, for the animal prompt, I have English Animals by Kaye, and this is a book about a couple who do taxidermy and a young woman starts working for them, and there's some interrelationship drama among these 3 characters. That's all I know about this book. It has been really popular on BookTube and I've been wanting to read it for a while. In particular, the reason I am very intrigued by this is because there's supposed to be a lesbian romance at the center of it between one of the members of the couple and doing the taxidermy and the new woman working for them. And I just in general want to read more LGBTQ books, and also the taxidermy thing is something that I am really fascinated by, which is probably because of my endless love for the natural history museums as an institution in general. Then moving on to the travel prompt, I have Miracle in the Andes by Nando, Parrado, and this is a book that I also bought last year, and I'm particularly interested in this book now because it's connecting with a book that I read recently. So basically this one is about a rugby club team who is on a flight and they crash in the mountains in the Andes, and it's about their survival story or lack of survival. I'm not 100% sure about the consequences of this accident. I'm not sure how many of them actually survived, but it's about that aftermath. So I thought that it would be the perfect timing to finally pick this up as it was connecting with a previous book that I just read, and it fits perfectly with the travel prompt, of course, because they're actually traveling while they have the accident. The next one is an example of what I said in the announcement video for the readathon. I mentioned that the travel prompt could be books about traveling, the act of travel, but it could also be about sports that forces the person to be in movement. And so that was what I was thinking about for this. Turning, Lessons from Swimming Berlin's Lakes by Jessica J. Lee. So this is a swimming memoir, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard me talk about how I love writers writing about swimming. There's something about it that just really, that I really connect with, even though I'm not a big swimmer myself. And so I've been interested in reading this for a while, and particularly since hearing a lot of good things about this author's most recent book that I have on reservation at my library. So I really wanted to get to this sooner so that I could get to her new one as well. So that is a swimming book for the travel prompt. And the last one I have as a travel option is a fiction book that isn't really that much about the travel itself. For me it would be because it's set in another country. So this is me stretching the concept of the travel prompt, and that is from the Mouth of the Whale by Sjon. This is an Icelandic author, and it seems like it's set in a small Icelandic community and about the way that they live and how they are relating to nature as well, I think, and some kind of superstitions and mythologies within this community. It's set in the 17th century, and I thought that it might be a nice way for me to sort of mix the kind of reading that I'm doing for the Springathon and to be traveling through books, which is something that I want to do all this year. In general, that's one of my reading goals for this year, was to map the lit, or mapping the lit is what I called it. Basically read more international literature. So I thought it would be a nice thing to have at least one translated book in the mix, and this is translated by Victoria Cribb. So there's that. I have only two options for the bird prompt. The first one is Owl Sense by Miriam Darlington, and this is on my Owls readathon TBR as well. So if I get to it before the end of the month, then I will just pick something else. But I thought that it is quite likely that I won't be able to read this in April. At the point that I'm at, I'm reading so many things, I don't think I will have time to read this. So I thought that it might be a nice thing if I was able to read it in the Springathon instead. And this is a natural history about owls. That's all I know about it, basically. And the next one I have for the bird prompt is Ghost Trees, Nature and People in a London Parish by Bob Gilbert. And this has the bird up there. That is the reason I'm using it for the prompt. And this is a book about connecting with nature in more urban or suburban areas. So this author moves, I think, at the beginning of the book, moves to a new area, a new parish, and he talks about the connection that he has with the kind of nature that he sees, and not just sort of wildlife and epic countrysides, but more the kind of nature that most of us are surrounded by. Tells the secrets and stories of the urban wildscape of glorious nature, resilient and resurgent on our very doorsteps. So I started reading this one just to look through my shelves and look for the options, and I was immediately pulled in by this book. So therefore I was particularly eager to put it on my list. And lastly, we have my options for the water prompt. So first we have To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. This is one of the fiction options that I have, and it's set, as the title says, by a lighthouse. It's about a family who is vacationing by the sea, and I think about a lot of the internal drama and tension in the family. I have read parts of this before and really loved it, and I feel like Virginia Woolf is the kind of author that you kind of need to sit down and just plow through. So I think that this might be a good book to pick up when I have more time, sometime during the readathon, to just sit down with this one day or two and just be completely engulfed by it. I would really love to finally get to her fiction, and this is one that I'm particularly interested in, so we'll see. I have that as an option for fiction for the water prompt. And then the other fiction option I have for water is The Lightkeepers by Abby Geni, and this is again an example of an author who I've really wanted to read. This is set on an island, and obviously surrounded by water, therefore, and it's about a nature photographer who moves to this island, which is the Farallon Islands. I think there's some tension between her and a few of the other members of a team or something like that. I've heard Mercedes talk a lot about this book, and she really loves this book and this author, and I thought this might be a nice kind of different kind of book to the other ones that I've selected, and again, I just really want to read this one. Also, now that I look at it, it actually has birds on the cover, so I might even use this for the bird prompt, because that is the one that I had the most difficulty with. So yeah, this is my bird prompt book, maybe. We'll see. And the last one that I have to show you is The Otter's Tale by Simon Cooper. This is a non-fiction natural history of sea otters, and of course sea otters are semi-aquatic creatures, therefore it fits with the water prompts. I've been interested in reading this one for a while, and especially after hearing Amy Anders talk about this book, and she really liked it, I've been especially intrigued. I'm always trying to explore new kinds of animal species and to learn more about them, and I know that this was also nominated for the Wainwright a couple of years ago, so that seems like a good suggestion of the quality of this. So those are all of the books that I have on my Springathon TBR. Obviously overly ambitious, and it's not even in the books that I will read all of these. They are just the options that I have closest to hand. I would love to know if you've read any of these and your thoughts about them, even if they're negative. It's good to know how to prioritize these books. And also let me know if you have made your Springathon TBR. If you've made a video, please link it below so I can see it, or just use the hashtag Springathon so I can find it when I'm searching. I'm so excited to see all of your TBRs, and if you don't have a booktube channel of your own, please feel free to share it in the comments. I'm really excited to see all of the books that you're just choosing, and to see the excitement generally for nature writing, which of course is my first love when it comes to books in general, and in particular for nonfiction. So that's all I wanted to say today. I hope you're having a good Friday and weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.